Hello friends and fellow bibliophiles, welcome back to Cat's Novel Adventures. Today I am not freaking out, even though I am doing the mid-year book freakout tag. This is my very first mid-year book freakout tag that I am doing on my channel. I have been watching some amazing videos by some wonderful booktubers doing this tag, and it has gotten me super excited about doing my own tag. However, I will say this was difficult to narrow down just to one book for some of these questions because I have read some really awesome books this year so far, and I have plenty of favorites. I kind of suffer from analysis paralysis or decision fatigue when it comes to having to choose a favorite because I have plenty of favorites. I will say that the tag that I am doing today, the version that I'm doing, has 13 questions. I have linked the original creators in the description box below. I also want to mention that I have a Goodreads goal of 75 books for 2023, and I have already read 47 books so far. I am 10 books ahead of schedule, and I am thrilled because if I keep up this momentum, surely I will meet my goal, if not surpass it. Let's go ahead and get started. The first question is, best book you've read so far this year? This was the toughest question because I read a variety of genres, and I read adult as well as children's fiction and nonfiction, and I could probably have picked a best book in all of the genres I read so far this year, as well as the fiction and nonfiction and children's as well as adult. However, I went ahead and narrowed it down to one book that I felt is a book that has a lot of the feels, good feels. It has some fantasy, it has adventure, it has a little bit of mystery surrounding it. Tried to get as many genres in it, something that I think both an adult or even a young adult would enjoy. And the book that I chose for my best so far is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. This is a wonderful fantasy. It's a fairy tale. It has wonderful characters in it. I love the main character, Tristram Thorn, who goes on this quest to find the fallen star for the woman that he's in love with. But it really is a wonderful adventure story. It has magic. It has wonderful mystical creatures in it. Just a really feel-good story and a book that I know for a fact that I would revisit. The second question is best sequel you've read so far this year. I have not read many sequels, but I did read two. One was an adult fiction and the other was a middle grade fiction. So I'm going to go ahead and count both of these since they are the only sequels I have read so far. And the first one is Dreadfully Ever After by Stephen Hawkinsmith. This is the sequel to Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. It is fun. It has zombies in it. It is in the style of Pride and Prejudice. Just a lot of fun, enjoyable, and I'm glad I was able to finish up this whole entire series because there's also a prequel to Pride and Prejudice and Zombies as well. And then the second sequel is Dead City, Blue Moon, and this is by James Ponti. This is also a zombie book. It follows a young girl, Molly, who is part of an Omega team that has to keep zombies who live in New York City in line so that they can live among the living and everybody can get along very well. Question number 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet but you want to, and my choice is Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. I recently read My Heart is a Chainsaw and loved it so much that I couldn't wait to get my hands on the sequel. I actually have this on my July TBR and I'm hoping that I will be able to get to it this month. Question number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I can't wait for Holly by Stephen King. I love the Bill Hodges trilogy, and Holly is a fantastic character. She also appears in the novel The Outsider, which is also excellent in my opinion. I still have to read the short story If It Bleeds from the If It Bleeds collection, but I can't wait to read Holly's story. I'm so happy that Stephen King has written a book and it's all about Holly. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment, and that would be The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. Unfortunately, I went into this book with high expectations and a lot of hype. I know that many people like this novel. I just felt like it needed a little more explanation in some areas of the story. I think it was well written. It was my first Paul Tremblay. It won't be my last. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's not that I didn't enjoy the writing. There were aspects of the novel that I really did like. I just felt like there were a lot of questions left unanswered, and I think there were some storylines that could have been expounded upon. I will say that I don't mind ambiguous endings if I'm given a little more information throughout the novel to make me feel a little more satisfied with how I wanted the novel to end. But like I said, I am not giving up on Paul Tremblay and plan to read more of his novels in the future. Question number 6 was biggest surprise, and this was another one that was hard to narrow down to one, so I actually have 3 for this. And my first surprise came in January, and that is No Exit by Taylor Adams. This is a thriller, and oh my goodness, it was awesome. It kept you on your toes and wanting to read from beginning to end. I really, really enjoyed No Exit and look forward to reading more books by Taylor Adams because this was my first Taylor Adams book. The next surprise was Night of the Living Trekkies by Kevin David Anderson and Sam Stahl. This was a humorous zombie horror novel, and it just was hilarious in parts, and it has heart. It takes place at a Star Trek convention, and there's a virus that also attends the convention, and then you end up with all kinds of zombies. I love the characters. It just really was a good time and really was a highlight of Zombie-thon for me in May. And then my last surprise was My Perfect Hero by Emma Bennett. This is a romance novel, which it's surprising in itself that I went ahead and picked this up to read it, but I have become friends with Emma Bennett on AuthorTube, and I asked her, what is the first book I should read that you have written? And this is what she suggested. It is so much fun. I haven't talked about it yet because I haven't wrapped it up. I read it in June, but it really was a fun, sweet novel. It's a clean romance. I just really had a good time with it. Question number 7 is favorite new author, meaning debut or new to you author. This is probably the toughest question because I have read so many new authors this year and I have loved many of their books. And it's also hard because I read middle grade as well as adult fiction, and to choose only one out of all of those categories is just too hard. So I kind of thought, who are the authors that I possibly would pick up another one of their books in the next 6 months? So that's how I am answering this question. As far as middle grade, I would say Dusty Bowling, the author of Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus, Kelly Barnhill, who wrote The Ogress and the Orphans, Michelle Magorian, the author of Goodnight, Mr. Tom, and also Jasmine Walger, who wrote A Rover Story. As far as my adult fiction choices, I would have to say Stephen Graham Jones. I just enjoy his writing and looking forward to reading more of his work. I really enjoyed My Heart is a Chainsaw. And Grady Hendrix, I have enjoyed the 2 books that I've read by him so far, which is My Best Friend's Exorcism as well as We Sold Our Souls. Looking forward to reading more of his work. Daphne du Maurier, I really enjoyed Jamaica Inn. I really would love to get to Rebecca at some point this year if possible, if not early next year. Emma Bennett. I really enjoyed her romance. And I'd like to check out more of Kevin David Anderson's work because I really enjoyed Night of the Living Trekkies. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush. Well, this one kind of stumped me because in all my years of reading, I don't ever really think I've had a fictional literary crush. I've had crushes on characters in movies and TV shows, but I don't ever remember really gushing over a character from a book. So I had to really sit there and ponder this one, and I decided on Ryan Murphy from Her Perfect Hero by Emma Bennett. Ryan is handsome, he's an Irishman, he's super friendly, he just really is the type of guy that could be your best friend but also be your romantic partner. Question number 9 is newest favorite character, and I could not narrow this down to just one. I had plenty favorite characters. However, I narrowed it down to 3. And my first favorite character is the complicated Jay Daniels from My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. I absolutely love Jade, flaws and all. She's tough, she's resilient, she doesn't take crap from anyone, and she loves horror movies, specifically slasher ones. So just can't get enough of Jade Daniels. Looking forward to reading more of her story in Don't Fear the Reaper. My second favorite character is Avon Green from Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus. Avon is spunky and she's a good friend. She was born with no arms, but she doesn't let that stop her from doing the things that she really wants to do. She will figure it out. She just has to do it differently. And my third favorite character is the Ogress from The Ogress and the Orphans by Kelly Barnhill. The Ogress is a wonderful, wonderful character. She is compassionate and she just wants to do the best for everyone. And she takes pleasure and finds joy in ordinary things in life, like baking or tending her sheep. Just all 3 of them, wonderful characters for many different reasons. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry. And I have to say there were several books that I've read so far this year that have made me tear up at different moments throughout the story. But the one that really crushed me, I have to say, is Goodnight, Mr. Tom by Michelle Magorian. This book, while it has many wonderful moments and it's well written and is a terrific story about Willie and Mr. Tom, it is so heartbreaking at times, and I literally sobbed. Like, there were moments where I had to like stop reading, go get Kleenex, and just like kind of compose myself before I could even move on. Like, I'm starting to tear up thinking about it now. But wonderful book, but probably the saddest story that I have read so far this year. Question number 11 is a book that made you happy. And The Secret of the Old Clock by Carolyn Keene made me happy for so many reasons. One, I love Nancy Drew. She was a favorite of mine from my childhood. 2, I got to revisit it during Old School April, and I have so many fond memories of growing up. I just loved the mystery, the simplicity of the times, and it is a wholesome read. So this one definitely makes me happy. Question number 12 is the most beautiful book you've received or have bought so far this year, and I have to go with Life in 5 Senses by Gretchen Rubin. This cover is gorgeous. The colors are beautiful. It's got texture. I just really love looking at it. And of course, I can't wait to read it. Finally, question number 13 is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I guess this is where I would freak out. Oh no! However, I'm not freaking out because even though these are books I want to read, I don't necessarily need to read them by the end of this year. I can always carry them over into the next year. I am going to try my best to get these books that I want to read read by the end of the year. And that means I need to read all of my books that I have in my Year of Christie jar. And then look, all of these books on this shelf. These are the books that are on my 23 books for 2023 list. And I have a total of 17 books left to read from that list. 2 of them I am tackling in July. I'm currently reading Fairy Tale by Stephen King, and I have Boy's Life by Robert McCammon on my list in July to read for Christmas Evil in July. So those are the books that I want to get to. Of course, I'm going to have book club books, and then if I find a book that I just want to pick up, or if just I'm in the mood to read. So there are plenty of books that I want to read and get to, but I don't necessarily need to read them. Thanks everyone for watching my first mid-year book freakout tag. I really do appreciate you stopping by. What was the best book or books you have read this year so far? Did you have a book that made you cry or one that made you happy? How about your fictional crush? Or did you have some favorite characters? Please let me know in the comments below. You know I love chatting with y'all. In the meantime, stay amazing and be adventurous.